پاکستان اور برطانیہ کے تعلقات سلطنت برطانیہ، انگریزی زبان، نظام تعلیم اور تارکین وطن کے اثرات کے باعث ہمیشہ سے تاریخی رہے ہیں، اور برطانوی سفیر پاکستانی ثقافت اور سیاست میں ہمیشہ بہت فعال رہے ہیں۔ پاکستان میں برطانیہ کے حال ہی میں سبکدوش ہونے والے سفیر جناب ایڈم تھامسن اور ان کی اہلیہ فریبا شیرازی تھامسن کی پاکستانی معاشرے اور ثقافت میں گہری دلچسپی نے پچھلے تمام سفارتکاروں کو پیچھے چھوڑ دیا۔ یہ سفارتی جوڑا پاکستان میں سب سے زیادہ فعال اور متحرک رہا۔ ایڈم تھامسن نے 1978 میں فارن اینڈ کامن ویلتھ آفس کو جوائن کیا۔ انہوں نے مختلف ممالک میں برطانیہ کے لیے خدمات سر انجام دیں۔ 1995 سے 98 کے دوران ایڈم تھامسن نئی دلی میں برطانیہ کے پولیٹیکل کاؤنسلر بھی رہے، اور 2006 سے 2009 کے دوران انہوں نے ایف سی او کے جنوبی ایشیا اور افغانستان کے ڈائریکٹوریٹ کے ڈائریکٹر کی حیثیت سے بھی کام کیا۔ ایڈم تھامسن جنوبی ایشیا کی سیاست اور معاشرت کو بہت اچھی طرح سمجھتے ہیں، اور ان کی اہلیہ فریبا شیرازی تھامسن آرکیٹیکچر اور آرٹ ہسٹری میں گہری دلچسپی رکھتی ہیں۔ ایڈم تھامسن نے جنوری 2010 میں رابرٹ برنکلے کی جگہ پاکستان میں برطانوی ہائی کمشنر کی حیثیت سے ذمہ داری سنبھالی۔ پاکستان میں تعیناتی سے لے کر اپنی مدت ختم ہونے تک ایڈم تھامسن اور فریبا اسلام آباد کے سفارتی حلقوں میں ایک نمایاں اور متحرک سفارتی جوڑے کے طور پر جانے جاتے رہے ہیں۔ فریبا تھامسن نے پاکستانی کنٹمپریری اور منی ایچر آرٹ اور آرکیٹیکچر میں بھی گہری دلچسپی لی۔ انہوں نے کئی مرتبہ نیشنل کالج آف آرٹس لاہور اور کراچی کے انڈس ویلی اسکول آف آرٹ اینڈ آرکیٹیکچر کے علاوہ نیشنل آرٹس کونسل اسلام آباد کے دورے کیے اور پاکستانی آرٹسٹوں سے ملاقاتیں کی۔ دسمبر 2012 میں ایشین اسٹڈی گروپ کی جانب سے منعقدہ ایک کانفرنس میں اپنی پریزنٹیشن میں انہوں نے منیچر آرٹ اور دیسی پاپ آرٹ کو دی آرٹ آف ایکسٹریمز قرار دیا۔
Miniature painting in Pakistan, it's an attitude and it's a voice.
دونوں نے پاکستانی معاشرے اور ثقافت کا گہرائی سے جائزہ لیا اور پاکستانی آرٹ اور آرکیٹیکچر کے گرویدہ ہو گئے۔
Pakistan has great contemporary art, possibly better than India. Miniature painting in Pakistan is no longer a tiny little thing. It's on walls and floors, and it's in fabrics.
آئیے ایڈم تھامسن کی 4 سالہ مدت کے ختم ہونے پر ان کے پاکستان سے متعلق جذبات اور ہونے والے تجربات کے بارے میں جانتے ہیں۔
ناظرین السلام علیکم۔ I'm joined here by British High Commissioner Adam Thompson and his wife Fariba Shirazi Thompson, a diplomatic couple with huge visibility and significance in Islamabad. Now returning back after almost 4 years of presence here in Islamabad, it's time to say farewell, but also time for an interesting discussion. A very warm welcome to you.
Thanks, Moeed.
What were your, it's 4 years, I have been in Islamabad and very active in media. In this 4 years, you were the most visible, the most active diplomatic couple in Islamabad. What were your feelings when you were coming to this country? Because this was the first time, both of you.
Well, I was lucky because I'd visited Pakistan before and worked on Pakistan before, so I don't think I was too apprehensive. But being the British High Commissioner in Pakistan is quite a professional challenge, so I guess that was what what was on my mind. I don't know, for Fariba, setting up another home, I guess.
Yes, and seeing what all this excitement was about. Adam was always passionate about Pakistan.
So what were the anxieties? In generally when you are in London or anywhere in the West, you hear so much negative things about Pakistan. So what were the anxieties?
I really wasn't at all anxious because Adam told me that it was all going to be brilliant.
This is what British diplomacy. Diplomacy exists at home as well. No, we'd talked
but you
to
had
a
not
lot of
worked in
Pakistani
Pakistan,
friends.
You had not worked in Pakistan.
No, but I had worked in the region before, and as I say, I'd worked on Pakistan. I'd visited Pakistan before. We knew Pakistanis. We had Pakistani friends, so we had some idea about what to expect.
What were the challenges? What you were thinking that would be the key challenges when you were coming here?
Well, for me, the biggest challenge is a professional one, is making a difference here for Britain and for Pakistan. I suspect for Fariba the challenge of reinventing yourself yet again. Is that fair, Sri?
It's absolutely, but also when we arrived here in January 2010, this was a no-child post. So we arrived thinking that our children would never be able to visit us here.
But they have been visiting
They
you.
have, yeah, things changed. It was fantastic. So we've had wonderful holidays.
In fact, you travelled on to northern areas with them, I think.
No, not quite. We went to Murray.
That's it. We tried.
No,
So,
we
what
drove
were
to
the,
Lahore.
but Farida, what were the other experiences before visiting? What were the other countries you were before coming to Pakistan?
Well, we met in India. We lived together in Brussels. We served in Washington, New Delhi again, and New York. No, I'm just sort of up for anything. Really.
When you first met in New Delhi, when?
Oh, January 1982.
So quite a while ago.
So what were you doing there? I assume Madam must have been a diplomat there.
No, actually, he wasn't. He was visiting his parents.
Yeah, I was on holiday from my job in the British Embassy in Moscow. The Indian winter is a lot nicer than the Soviet one, believe me.
So what were you doing?
I was visiting my sister who lived in Delhi at the time, and learned French, learned English. I had a wonderful Scottish teacher in Delhi.
Since you have lived in India, and India and Pakistan are supposed to be very similar yet different, what do you think, after living in Pakistan and after living in India, in what respects you found, from your experience, the Indian society being similar to the Pakistani society?
They're very similar, really. But maybe it's because of my personal experience that I felt welcome in both places. I was very happy in both. We had more freedom to travel in India, but then the children were little, and so we couldn't really travel. What are the differences? What
I don't know. I'm tempted to use the phrase that somebody used of Britain and the United States, two nations divided by a common language, that actually there's a tremendous amount in common between Pakistan and India. We've found, maybe it's just the role we've been playing, but we found Pakistan very warm, very open, very easy to engage with, and that's been an absolute delight. So we're lucky. We actually met at a Sarod recital in New Delhi. We're both, therefore, very fond of, have always been, of the classical traditions of the subcontinent. Wonderful music, wonderful civilizations. Pakistan doesn't dwell enough on its rich pre-partition history, in my view. But it's also true, and we've spent a lot of time here in Pakistan celebrating it. Pakistan has great contemporary art, possibly better than India.
What other regions of Pakistan and cities you spent more time after Islamabad?
Well, as Farba was saying, we haven't travelled as much as we should have, or as we would have liked to. So it's mostly been Karachi and Lahore, two completely amazing South Asian cities in their very different ways.
And how do you compare them, Farida?
Oh, they're so different.
They're so different.
So different.
In what respect?
Oh gosh, I mean, Lahore is my favorite city. I can't hide it. It's.
What is the thing that inspires you about Lahore? Why do you like Lahore so much?
I think it's the architecture.
It's the architecture.
And I relate to it as an Iranian as well. I love it. And that sense of sort of excess, and it's a little too decadent, a little over the top, but I look at the elegance of the ladies and the way people care about food and interiors and
elegance of the
gardens.
ladies is a very interesting term.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Adam, how do you compare the feverish energy in Karachi with the history and the imperial background of Lahore.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I love Lahore, but I need to put a word in for Karachi as well, because it is one of the world's great cities. It's very raw. It was only 350,000 people, I think, at independence in 1947.
Well, perhaps even less than that.
So it's grown tremendously, and it's all very recent. But it is New York to Islamabad's Washington D.C. It's got the sort of tremendous intellectual capital, a great deal of entrepreneurial spirit, and despite all the challenges of a mega city.
Did you participate in any of the Oxford book festivals? Did you travel on and were you there?
I wasn't lucky enough. Faraba got to go to.
You were there?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It was,
and was it an experience worth being there?
Absolutely. Yes, I made all my friends jealous. Told everyone about it. It's absolutely.
I think in one of the instances when I interviewed William Dalrymple, he was also for the festival or something.
Yes, he'd come, well, probably not the time you interviewed him, but he has come for the festival. And that's been, if I may just blow a little British trumpet, the British Council was the moving spirit for the Karachi Literature Festival, and others have taken off inspired by that example. So we can celebrate Pakistan's contemporary literature, which is cutting edge, exciting, vibrant. Don't neglect, please, Pakistan's contemporary art and visual arts as well, because one of the things that has most excited us, Faraba can talk about this better than I, is the work that's coming out of these two great institutions, the National College of Art and the Indus Valley School. Really,
which painters, which artists you liked in Pakistan?
I can't name names. I'm a huge fan of all of them. But,
like Mashkoor, for instance.
Well, I'm looking at something that's perhaps a little more cutting edge, but it is so good that 5 years ago, long before we knew we were coming here, I signed up for a course at SOAS in London on contemporary art of Pakistan, and there are already academics who specialize in that, and the world knows about it, and I think Pakistan should be proud of it. It's amazing.
You've got, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you've got Pakistani contemporary artists who are winning really significant international recognition, but who are not that well recognized here in Pakistan. It's been a real pleasure for us to surround ourselves in this house where we entertain 9,000 or 10,000 people a year, lots of Pakistani contemporary painting and other works.
So if I move a bit into politics, which is your area, what was the toughest challenge as a British High Commissioner in Pakistan in almost 4 years when you actually thought that this is bad?
It would be indiscreet of me to reveal the worst particular moment, but yes. There have been one or two exciting moments when I feel really earned my salary, but there have never been any really anxious moments, because I fancy I can say, this may be just me imagining, but that relations between Britain and Pakistan have just got better and better all through the period that we have been here. And I'm proud. I think that Faraba and I, between us, partly because we've tried to engage very much with the country, have laid some really good foundations.
But how do you react to the Pakistani media's often charged sort of allegation that British High Commission is often the fulcrum and the focus point, not for Fariba, but for you, this question is that the British High Commission is often the fulcrum and the focal point of Pakistan's domestic political transitions as well. I mean, the British High Commission is very active.
Happily.
Is this true in the first place?
No, it isn't, not really. I mean, Pakistan attributes much more power to the outside world than is ever actually exercised. What happens in Pakistan is the responsibility of Pakistanis. But the United Kingdom did play a role, indeed I was a part of it in London, in the return of democracy, 2007, 2008.
You were the director of the South Asia
Yes,
Afghanistan.
I saw a lot of Benazir Bhutto in London, for example. I think happily I can say that this is no longer becoming the case. It's becoming no longer the case that Pakistan is as open to influence, because although ordinary Pakistanis probably don't see it in all the trouble and strife of everyday life, things are actually stabilizing here. And Pakistan...
Do you feel so? Do you think so?
Definitely over our 4 years, yes.
And how do you define things stabilizing, things calming down? How do you define that?
Well, I look at you guys in the media, and you're getting excited about much smaller things than you were excited about in 2010 when we arrived, for example. Institutions are growing up a little bit. It'll take time, but real progress has been made. And I'm sorry, because this is not always of great interest to Farah, but one last point is just that, this transition through elections, which we did vocally support, to another civilian government, has laid the foundations for democratic continuity, and that is really, really important for this country. It may sound a bit abstract, but it means day-to-day bureaucrats assuming their ministers are going to be running them for the next 5 years, the ministers believing that they are in charge for the next 5 years, not always looking over their shoulder, recognizing they have to take decisions to make the country better by the time the next elections come. That's really powerful.
What were the moments when you found the High Commissioner, Adam, really worried about something?
My favorite place is a very, very special private sort of museum. It's called the Fakir Khana Museum in the old city, just inside the party gate.
And I honestly believe that this country will overcome its violent extremism.
सन वेपरन ठंडक की 5 बीमारियों से करे हिफाजत।
तो फिर आइसक्रीम चाहिए मेरे बच्चे को?
Nazim, welcome back. I'm joined here by the outgoing British High Commissioner Adam Thompson and his wife Fariba Shirazi Thompson. We connect back to where we were talking. Fariba, when you say the architecture of Lahore, what precisely do you mean? I mean, what places come to the mind?
Well, the whole of the old city. I mean, obviously it's a World Heritage Site, and it is the capital of the Mughal Empire, and it's a shame that I think Pakistan isn't more visibly proud of it. There's so much that I can only dream about doing with that architecture.
And Adam, did you guys went to Cuckoos and other places in the old part of Lahore?
Well, we went to as many parts of the old part of Lahore as my security guys allowed me to go to. So yeah.
Now, my favourite place is a very, very special private sort of museum. It's called the Fakir Khana Museum in the old city, just inside the party gate. And
it's my impression that you also visited National College of Arts many times.
Very, very much. It's one of my favourite places, absolutely.
And why it's your favourite place?
Well, it's where this incredible art of miniature painting is taught, the old-fashioned sort of medieval way, but not just technically, but also in the sort of ideological way. There's this sort of ustad and shagird sort of relationship, and there's a proper maktab, there's a proper school of miniature painting that, and there's nothing like that in the region.
How do you compare, when you visited NCA so many times, how do you compare this miniature art in NCA and in Pakistan? How do you compare it with the art form in Iran? I mean, what are the similarities and what are the differences?
I think miniature painting in Iran is more decorative, really, whereas in Pakistan it's an attitude, and it's a voice that
and it's cutting edge. It is political, and it's also spilling out beyond its miniature borders. So miniature painting in Pakistan is no longer a tiny little thing. It's on walls and floors, and it's in fabrics and huge wall hangings. So it's part of an explosion of culture that this society is somehow managing to generate.
Isn't it interesting that an outsider sees so much more which someone who's living there would not actually see it? I mean, I have never realized that miniature art is saying so much.
Yeah, well, my point.
But you know, the Desi pop that's coming out of Karachi is equally important. And,
the pop culture, you said.
But it's sort of very, very much the sort of Desi pop art that's coming out of a school like the Indus Valley. Very, like Rashid Rana's work. I mean, he's not a miniature painter. He's using images, photo collages, but it's very much with the knowledge of the miniature in the background.
And what about the music? It's true that Pakistani music is mostly not in English, but were you ever touched by the music in Pakistan? Did you experience some of the music here?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, no, we're huge fans of the Qawwals of Pakistan, for example. And especially, if I'm lucky and they sing in Persian, I particularly...
Yeah.
Sure.
In the High Commission?
Sure.
What was that?
Well, we're doing one before we leave with Qawwali music for our friends and others here in Islamabad. That's one example.
And coming back to Lahore, when you go to Lahore, do you have this feeling of a very strong imprint of the Raj on the architecture? Because Fariba mentioned architecture. When you pass through the Mall Road, do you have this feeling of the imprint?
I mean, personally, no, not at all, because I think it's the other way around, that actually South Asia has imprinted itself on Britain and British history. And the Mall, if you want to take that as an example, is a perfect fusion, just as Lachin's Delhi is as well. But as Fariba said, Lahore has been a capital of an empire, and that shows. I repeat, though, I like Karachi.
for the sheer...
And those aren't the only cities we have visited. I hasten to add.
But Adam, people, not exactly politics, but in general, people think that the British High Commission is a fulcrum of so much that goes on to Pakistani politics. Do you think this is the right impression? Is this how you also think, that the British High Commission somehow is connected with the domestic politics in Pakistan?
Well, it certainly can't ignore the domestic politics, and I don't think any diplomat, British or other, in any country, Pakistan or anywhere else, is doing their job unless they're understanding the politics, the domestic politics of the country. But it's not our business to steer those politics. It is our business to support the good things that are happening in Pakistan. And I think we can't really do that as British diplomats unless we really throw ourselves into Pakistan, unless we really engage, unless people, ordinary Pakistanis, feel like we're on their side. And doing that over the last 4 years has been huge fun and made enormously more enjoyable and easier for me as a Brit, with Fariba as my wife, understanding the region, understanding the language, the history of the culture and so on. Mishal Hussain of the BBC once very generously, kindly described Fariba as my secret weapon, and I think that's true, because and it's why we're dwelling with you, Moeed, a little bit on Pakistan's contemporary culture, because unless you can engage with that as well as with the politics, unless you can celebrate what is going on in a country, you can't be on their side, on the side of those you're trying to work with. So
it's almost a case of a total immersion, what you call. You have to immerse yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to be immersed in the bubble of Islamabad, in the diplomatic enclave, but we've done our best. Yeah.
But since you have been the secret weapon in the last almost 4 years, what were the moments when you found the High Commissioner, Adam, really worried about something? Tense moments.
No, he's never really lost his cool. I can't think.
As I was saying to you, James Bond isn't the best example. Shaken occasionally, but not stirred.
Were there any moments which were difficult? I mean, in almost 4 years. That I'm sure if I asked Richard Olson this, he has many moments.
Yeah, Rick probably does. But actually, for me, there are occasional moments when my staff have worried about the security situation, for example, and we've had to give them reassurance.
तो फिर आइसक्रीम चाहिए मेरे बच्चे को?
Nazim, welcome back. I'm joined here by the outgoing British High Commissioner Adam Thompson and his wife Fariba Shirazi Thompson. We connect back to where we were talking regarding the future of the country. You talked, Adam, that there is still hope for the country. What were the most disappointing aspects when you were here for the last 4 years, and what were the most hopeful aspects?
Well, for disappointing, not a lot. One of the things that when I arrived, I was feeling was like you could make a really big difference really quickly. And I think I've learned that in any serious country that's not possible, because there are cultures, there are habits of thinking and so on that change relatively slowly. So in particular, the challenge for successive Pakistan governments of making things happen is very great, and I now respect that much more than I did at the beginning of our visit. But in terms of hopeful...
So in terms that you get to understand the system works and delivers, but it takes its own...
You have to, I think, again, any country, but especially Pakistan, you have to learn to work with the grain. You can't expect transformation in everything overnight. Pakistanis shouldn't expect it. The international community shouldn't expect it. But there is tremendous grounds for hope in this country. Farab and I have both really enjoyed getting out into the countryside and visiting little primary schools, for example. We've done it separately on different expeditions. When you look at these...
So are you also, are you as a High Commissioner actively engaged with the work and sense of direction with British Council's work?
I talk intensively with my British Council colleagues, as I do with my DFID colleagues, Department for International Development colleagues, yeah.
So what happened? What were the major milestones in the last 4 years in terms of British Council and DFID?
A couple of things with the British Council that I think have been very exciting. One is their engagement on English language teaching. I don't believe Pakistan can flourish unless it equips itself educationally for the very competitive global market. And the British Council is working over a period of time to train 300,000 teachers of English in teaching English better. That's terrific. It's also been really nice for Farab and I to see the British Council reviving the cultural strand of their work, which is great.
So what was your interest in the education area? You visited a number of schools, you've been going to colleges.
Actually, really looking at the work of the PPAF and Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund, and I was really lucky. I was taken around some of the primary schools that they work with. I've never been so moved in my life. They're amazing.
And one of the great things about this country is that all the kids are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And
what is it supposed to mean?
It means that they're full of zest. They have an appetite for life. They're brimming with optimism. Another great British Council program is called Active Citizens, which is working with sort of 16, 17-year-old kids building leadership skills. And my goodness, they're impressive here in Pakistan. So young Pakistan gives us plenty of hope for the country.
Fariba, initially when we were talking, you mentioned visual arts. What was the thing that struck you about Pakistani visual arts?
With the subject, the technical excellence, the dedication of the artists, the they're not in it for the money, genuinely. They're all the young artists I meet are interested in growing and developing, and it's wonderful that the galleries that they work with or the teachers are giving them that space.
Adam, but both of you also lived in India. How do you think is the visual arts different in India, and what is the Pakistani experience?
Well, I'm not sure I'm completely up to speed any longer with what's going on in India.
I can tell you that clever Indian money is buying Pakistani art.
What is
There
it?
you go.
And also about the textiles you were mentioning that you
Well, textiles are a particular passion of mine, and I've worked on textiles, in commercial fields like an auction house or museums, and the textiles of Pakistan are phenomenal. Really, every village has a different stitch, has a different color palette. I wish I was able to travel and record things.
Every village, you said every village has a different color palette. You mean that every village is producing something which is
a little bit different from the one next door. It's absolutely, astonishing. The different communities, obviously, produce totally different things.
And this is your observation in mostly Punjab, or you travel?
No, actually in Sindh as well. There are Hindu communities in Sindh that have the world's most beautiful textiles. There was an exhibition at the V&A some years ago. It was called The Colours of the Indus, and the V&A are now organising an exhibition of Indian textiles. And if I have any influence, I want to make sure that they don't limit it to the
But
borders
this
of
doesn't,
India.
what Fariba is talking, Adam, this doesn't fall into any of the areas of interest with British Council, for instance, or does it?
Probably not, but it does fall into my area of interest, because if you're going to do justice by a country, you need to do your best to understand it. And as I say, Fariba is my secret weapon on that. So here she is talking about the tremendous cultural diversity that Pakistan has that is not at all well recognized outside
Why do you
Pakistan.
think so? Why it is so?
Well, because Pakistan gets stereotyped in the international media for very understandable reasons of violence, terrorism and so on, from which this country has suffered terribly. But it isn't the whole story about Pakistan. It's only a tiny fraction of the story about Pakistan, either in terms of Pakistan's history and the richness of that, or in the breadth of Pakistan's cultural and social diversity. And if you want to make a difference in a country, you need to understand its diversity and be able to engage with that.
Pakistanis, Adam, what will you advise the Pakistanis, my viewers, that some of the understandable problems, for instance, of terrorism might take a while before they settle down. But what can Pakistanis do to let the world understand Pakistan, its plurality, its diversity, its depth better?
Well, I'd say, because I've done quite a lot of this myself back in the United Kingdom, is tell Pakistan's story with confidence. There are good things to be said about this country, many good things. We've been talking about some of them in this discussion. Tell that story to the world and tell it often, because you need to break through this stereotype and get people to appreciate that Pakistan is a warm country, it's an open country, it's actually an open-minded country, although that is not often the perception. It's a country where the international community can do business. It's a country that we can work with. And I think appreciating its diversity, its artists.
Just connecting with this, the last question, just connecting with what you were talking right now. I assume you are going to Brussels from here to the European Union. You're not taking an assignment in London. You're going to...
We will find ourselves in Brussels in due course, yes, that's right. Although not at the European Union, I hasten to add. But it's going to be impossible ever to leave Pakistan behind for either of us, I think. We'll have friends here. I'm sure they'll visit us. We'll follow what is going on in this country. Inshallah, if I survive the diplomatic service and go on to another career, I fully expect it will have a Pakistan dimension to it.
Yeah, exactly. This is where I wanted to, that in your next assignments, you're learning of Pakistan, what you learned about Pakistan, maybe you also get an opportunity to further the understanding about Pakistan.
Oh, absolutely, yes. No, you can't, and this isn't just the British ambassador speaking. I think it's true for all the internationals in Pakistan. You get passionate about Pakistan, and so I'm very sure that wherever I am, I will be doing my best to be, if you like, an ambassador for Pakistan, explaining this country and its values and why we should value it. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you, Fariba. Thank you for joining us today. Nazreen, you were watching our discussion with the outgoing British High Commissioner, Adam Thompson, and his wife, Fariba Shirazi Thompson. Almost 4 years in Pakistan, a very interesting time period, a very visible couple, diplomatic. You watched this discussion. I hope you liked it.